Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
I don't even know where to start from all of the things that have been said that are just wrong.
There's your favorite person, Mary Elizabeth Coleman.
Oh, I love that drop so much, Brad. It applies so often to our show.
John gave me that one. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, lots of things to talk about this morning. You're talking about the hurricane. I heard something from yesterday from the smartest woman in the world. She told me that all the years in recorded history that a hurricane has never hit Sarasota, Florida. Does that sound right to you?
I heard something to that effect when I was watching some of the Weather Channel clips yesterday, Brad. Yeah, I was really surprised by that.
And once again, Sarasota is sort of, wouldn't you consider that sort of like mid Gulf Coast of the Florida coastline?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Home of, by the way, Randy Macho Man Savage, lived in Sarasota for many years. Also the home of the White Sox spring training for many years, which has nothing to do with this conversation. I just thought I'd drop those facts in. Yeah, so it's kind of like the middle of the coast. So if you're picturing between, I guess, Tampa, and what would be on that side, Brad, on the western side of Florida, what would be like somewhere way far down? It'd be like halfway between Tampa and some lower spot, I guess.
See, I'm not real good with that lower part of Florida on the Gulf Coast because the fact that I've been to Sarasota many times. Matter of fact, I used to have a business relationship in Sarasota. This is going way back. And matter of fact, I did my honeymoon in Sarasota.
No way, did you really?
Yeah, on Longboat Key. My wife worked for as a pair of doctors. They were, husband and wife doctors, and they had a condo down in Sarasota, or on Longboat Key, and they let us have the condo for our wedding, for our honeymoon. Now, interestingly enough, probably about 7 or 8 years later, we were down in Florida, and the one doctor, the female doctor, the wife, was at the condo, and she invited us down there again. And we went down there, just to say hi to her. And it was when one of the hurricanes was coming ashore in the Gulf of Mexico, and she had these beautiful floor-to-ceiling windows in her, like a living room, and it was myself and my wife, and at the time I only had one kid, so this was my son. This was Brett, my oldest son, and we were sitting in the living room, and she had the hurricane shutters. I'm talking about the ones that roll down.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Yeah.
Okay, she had the hurricane shutters, and she was saying, maybe I should get up and roll down the hurricane shutters because the wind was getting intense.
And you said, no, I want to watch it.
No. I literally got up to do it. I say, I can do it. And as I got up, the windows exploded. I mean, literally.
Brad. What happened? Were you okay?
Well, it was like in slow motion. It was like you saw it happen. The windows, and it was like that safety glass. So it was like pebbles. It was like being pelted with pebbles, and it was all over. And this woman obviously was a doctor. My son at the time, I guess he was like 2 or 3 years old. If I call him, he would never remember this. And he was just covered with glass. And my wife was covered with glass. We're all just covered with like glass. And I still got outside, rolled down the hurricane shutter, the whole bit. And it was just a mess. And we helped her. Can't remember if we had a shop vac or what we did. I remember like sweeping up the glass and stuff like that. But it was just one of those bizarre moments where, that wasn't supposed to happen. And it was
And, probably at that time, too, you guys weren't sitting around watching the Weather Channel in the 1980s, right? You were just relying on, I don't know, whatever you saw, or maybe radio or local television?
Well, no, matter of fact, it's a good thing you asked that because of the fact that back in the day when you traveled, you had to take your weather kit with you because there was no Weather Channel, and you had to have an anemometer with you, which you put somewhere, and you had to have your barometer, and you had
kite. You would fly a kite sometimes.
Right,
too.
and you had to have like the meteorologists have when you see them on TV. I'm standing here and look they got a little gizmo that shows the wind speed. It's 82 miles an hour. That kind of stuff. But anyway, that's my recollection of Sarasota. Sarasota at the time it's probably changed quite a bit, but the airport, when I used to fly in there for business, back in the day, It was a very small airport, no concourses, and literally they rolled the air stairs up to the plane. And it was interesting because if it was raining when you were deplaning, hey, it was raining when you were deplaning. I think I found a new song there. Hey,
I think so.
I'm rapping. It was raining. I was deplaning. How's that? Okay. If it were raining, they had like a bucket of umbrellas that the stewardesses would pop one open for you as you walked out of the plane and you walked down the stairs into the terminal, which, that's probably not the way that airport is anymore, but who knows? Anyway, bizarre, weird stuff from my past. Okay, so the interesting part of this is that do you think that this is going to be another bone of contention for the Biden-Harris administration of now essentially having to deal with two major hurricanes and the response thereof?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I don't know how they wouldn't. Was it Hillary Clinton said you never let a crisis go unseized or something like that? Yeah, I mean, they're going to triumphantly come through these hard times, Brad, and stand up for the American people.
Do you really think that?
No, not at all. I do know when in watching just a Weather Channel, all I saw last night were ads for Biden-Harris and then for the Trump campaign. So take that for what it's worth. And also, Brad, what I thought was brilliant. So I'm at the gym yesterday, and I'm doing a little bit of a warm-up. I'm on a treadmill, and somebody before me had they either had the Weather Channel or it was some kind of hurricane coverage. And I saw an ad for Generac, the generator company. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I haven't seen a Generac ad in a long time. And then last night when I was watching the Weather Channel, I saw, I don't know, a Generac ad 3 times in probably 30 minutes. And I was like, that is brilliant. Like, what great marketing is that, Brad?
Well, and I'm a guy who I'm down. I only have 2 generators right now. I have a big one. I have a 60 kilowatt diesel, which literally weighs about 4 tons. But, the amazing thing about that is that it's one of those things, and there's quite a few people in the St. Louis area that have generators now. That's gotten to be quite common. The only problem I have with the generators that most of the electricians install is they're powered by natural gas, and the only problem is in the case of like a real emergency, a real disaster, and especially like an earthquake, guess what? The natural gas is going to fail. So in other words, if you have a natural gas generator, you're pretty much SOL.
And why will it? What do you mean it will fail, Brad?
Well, when you have an earthquake, it typically, disrupts the utilities because they're underground utilities.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
It breaks the gas pipes, and that's very common in earthquakes where you have fires that are fueled by natural gas until they get in to turn off the mains of the natural gas supply. Very, very common, and obviously the further out you get, the more unreliable your utilities are. Trust me, the KSOQ transmitter site down there in outside of Augusta, which is on Osage Ridge Road. We are on the very, 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 very end of the Quiver River Electric Cooperative, and all it takes is 2 birds deciding to get onto a line at the same time, and the power goes out. It's one of those kind of crazy things like that. But see, the Generac thing is interesting because, once again, there was a time, you go back 20, 30, 40 years ago, and if someone say, I've got a generator in my house, you either were like survivalist or you were like super rich. There was no in between. But that's changing quite a bit. But that's interesting because the fact that some smart marketing agency, some smart advertising agency that represents Generac probably has standing orders with like the channels you're talking about, the Weather Channel, stuff like that. Essentially say, okay, in case of a hurricane or a natural disaster like tornadoes and stuff like that, you can run X amount of our commercials, X amount of time, and we'll pay you X. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean. And I was always surprised too. So I used to subscribe to the print edition. Brad, yesterday you were talking about how hard it is to find print editions of papers. And I agree. I used to subscribe to the print edition of Investor's Business Daily, which ironically didn't come daily. It only came weekly after a period of time. But IBD would run full page ads for Generac. And I always wondered why. I was like, I wonder why maybe only rich people buy generators. But then I went to Generac's investors relations page, and they have a really robust, it seems like they have a really smart investor relations page. And then I was thinking, wait a minute, every company today is pretty much in the business of marketing their stock. Who do you want to have name ID with? When your stock and your company is called Generac, why not run full page ads in Investors Business Daily for your company, even if it might not be your target audience? So you're really paying for access to financial minds and influence rather than people who are just going to go out and buy a generator.
So you're saying that their target audience was people buying their stock, not buying their generators, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe you got two for the price of one. Maybe some people maybe they figured some of the folks that would see the ad in Investors Daily would go out and buy a generator. But in my opinion, it was more like, let's raise the profile of the company. We'll just, we write it off as an advertising expense, but then we get the name of our company in front of people that just buy and trade stocks for a living.
Let's change topics for a minute. Are you familiar with this story that happened? I believe it was might have been last Monday, which would have been the last day of the month, but it was last month of this stabbing that went on at Arizona State University. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't. An ASU stabbing. I didn't see that.
Okay, imagine this. There's a young lady, a white young lady, who walks into the classroom. She's getting ready for class, and I'm just be honest. It's a black woman who's also in the class. Stands up and runs at her and stabs her twice with a knife. Okay, this is in the classroom at ASU. And it wasn't for, I believe the guy they credit as being like the hero was like an ex-Marine or an ex-Navy guy or something like that. He instinctively responded, jumped at them, got the knife away from, literally as the story, when I read it originally, he wrestled with the lady who was doing the stabbing. The knife came out of her hand and dropped to the floor. Another student came up and either kicked the knife away or picked up the knife and threw it away. And this guy wrestled this woman to the ground, and a couple other students immediately started performing aid on this young lady who was stabbed. Now, the interesting part of this is that now it comes out that, and let me read you this, Arizona State University student Casey Sloan, who was accused of stabbing a fellow student twice in a Glendale classroom last month in an apparently random act, entered a not guilty plea in Maricopa County on Wednesday after 2 of her 4 counts were dismissed last week. They got rid of the attempted murder charge. They took out the first-degree attempted murder. Now, if you're attacking someone with a knife, isn't that attempted first-degree murder?
I can't imagine the rationale for what you just described, Brad, of why that charge would be dropped, or why she wouldn't be charged with that, I should say. But also, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if this was a pretty white girl stabbing a big fat black girl, we would have heard about it.
Well,
I would have heard about it, right?
It says Judge Ashley Ramanan also gave Sloan a cash bail of $250,000 and listed the conditions of her release should be able to post bail in full. So in other words, she can't do like a bail bondsman. She has to come up with the $250,000. Sloan, this is the woman, allegedly walked up to her classmate Daffron on September 19th and stabbed her multiple times, according to an affidavit obtained by Fox News Digital, citing blah, 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 blah. And the story goes on to say, Matthew McCormick, yes, here it is, Matthew McCormick, a student who witnessed the attack unfolding in the classroom, took swift action to stop the alleged stabbing, potentially saving Daffron's life. And he says, in that moment, I didn't really have a thought going through my head. I knew that I had to, I felt compelled to do something, he told the outlet. Goes on to say, approximately 13 witnesses, 13 students in the classroom present during the attack, including a professor, recounted the incident to police, who wrote in a probable cause affidavit obtained by Fox News that the stabbing occurred, quote, without any provocation or any words spoken. She just walks up to her and starts stabbing her. And how is that not attempted first-degree murder? I mean,
in the article I'm seeing, it says that she wrote that she was struggling with self-worth issues, and she penned apologies in advance for what she was doing. And Brad, let's not forget she's black. So, I mean, we got to give her a little bit of leeway for that, right?
Black, green, orange, purple. Now the sad part of this is that let's say that this guy who intervened had a gun. And I know we're on campus, you're not supposed to have guns, but that doesn't mean they're not there. Let's say he had a gun and he shot her and killed her, okay? What do you think would be the repercussions of that?
Yeah. Well, of course. And then we'd have marches and we would have, Yeah, again, I think it's telling, Brad, that like I didn't know about the story until you flagged it for me. But if the races were reversed, people would be burning down cities right now.
Well, I just see, so many times you hear this and you think, there was a time, and trust me, my mom used to work at one of these places. My mom worked at the St. Louis State School and Hospital over there on Bellefontaine Road. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
Yes, and there were some of the areas that my mom talked about that she was dealing with people who were violent criminals. And a lot of them were young. They were juveniles. And, sometimes, people's brains just get wired weird. How's that? That's a very, I don't know if you know that, there's a very technical explanation.
That's in the DSM or whatever it's called.
Right. No, isn't it PDR? Physician's desk reference, isn't that what is?
Yeah, but there's a mental code for it. I forgot what the mental thing, DMC or something like that.
Well, back in the day, there was a term we used to use as police dispatchers, and once again, it was political correctness before political correctness was in vogue, and I won't say what the term was because people would be offended by it.
Is it bat something crazy? No. Is it bat guana crazy?
It wasn't that. Yeah, that was BSC, right? Right. We have a BSC at 42nd and 3rd Street. Respond code 3. No, it wasn't.
Hey, that's better than BHC, which is Brad Hildebrand crazy.
That's right.
And according to the DSM, that's like the highest level of crazy.
Right. There ain't nothing higher than that. Okay, we have to take a break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?